Hello my beautiful friends. So today we're going to talk about how to absolutely stay laser focused on your PhD with a particular focus on if you are doing a part-time PhD. But the tips in this video will be valuable no matter what sort of PhD you are doing. So let's get into it. This video is brought to you by my newsletter. Go check it out at andrewstapleton.com.au/newsletter because there I'm going to share exclusive content that you cannot find anywhere else. There's going to be invitation only Q&As. There's lots of resources. Actually, when you first sign up, you're going to get a link to my daily planner that was linked to a video which I did, and I'll also be releasing other resources as I make them, as I build them, and you will be the first to know if you sign up to the newsletter. So go check it out and I'll see you over there. All right, let's get on with the content. More and more people are choosing to do a part-time PhD. Now, the thing about doing a part-time PhD is it comes with its own little struggles. For example, there are going to be days where you don't think about your PhD sort of consciously, but your subconscious is working in the background and you may come up with ideas. And then you go to sit down at your desk when you go back to pick up where you left off and you completely forgot where you started. Also, just being away from your PhD can give your mind the ability to be creative, and you'll have these flashes of inspiration, and you've got to make sure that you can jot them down right there and then. So in this video, I'm going to share with you all of the things that I think are super important if you're doing a part-time PhD, or if you're sort of spending time away from your PhD for whatever reason. Maybe you're going to a conference, maybe you're going on holiday, maybe you're just taking a break. I've known a few people just take 6 months off from their PhD just to recollect themselves, just because it can be a really kind of draining thing for a lot of people, and you don't have to give it up. You can take a little bit of a break. So this video is also useful for those people that just are spending a bit of time away from their PhD regularly, and you just need to keep the momentum up. Here is how you stay laser focused. So the first thing is all about record keeping. Record keeping. Like in science, in the sort of STEM field, we have lab books and we just use that like a diary of ideas, a diary of experiments, a diary of what we're doing. Importantly, it's kind of like the dates that we've done the things as well, because, you know, if there's a legal battle in the future about whose idea it was, then we have a record in pen, a physical record of what we've done and when, and that it was our idea first, essentially. Really useful for patents as well. I used my lab book when I was applying for 2 of the patents. They just wanted to see when we come up with ideas and, you know, just, talked about the process, I guess, and it was all there. But if you are doing a part-time PhD, or if you are a little bit further away from if you're going away for a bit and you forget these things, record keeping is the one thing that's going to keep you on track. So the first thing I recommend you do is leave yourself a note in the third person. The third person isn't super important, but it really worked for me. So if I was going away for any significant amount of time, I would write, "Hi Andy, this is what you've just done." And I would just sort of spend 10 minutes maximum writing down the things I had just completed. So it may have been an experiment, it may have been a research proposal, it may have been a grant funding application, it may have been a paper, maybe I finished a chapter, maybe, just all of these things, just a little brain dump. Bullet point it if you have to. "Hi Andy," or your name, you could say Andy if you want, it's up to you. But "Hi Andy, this is what you've just done, and the most important thing is this is what you need to do next." So related to those things, if they're not completed, you need to make sure that you contact this person. You need to make sure that you follow up on a review that you sent away. You need to finish off this experiment, you need to read these papers, and essentially what that does is just stop you from wasting time. It's so annoying when you kind of get to your desk and you're like, what was I doing? And this note that you leave on your desk is going to be the thing that saves hours and hours of just kind of building up that momentum. And it really is about protecting the momentum that you're building. That's not too much of an issue if you're doing your PhD day to day. If you're spending daily if you're in daily contact with your PhD, that's absolutely fine, because you kind of just keep that momentum up naturally. But at the end of the day, it's still pretty good to leave yourself a little note so that in the morning, no matter how sort of short your break is, even if it's overnight, sometimes you can just get a little bit sidetracked on what you were doing and why you were doing it. So leaving yourself a note is a really good way of keeping up that momentum, making sure that you pick up exactly where you left off. That is a awesome tip that I recommend everyone starts doing, whether you're doing a part-time PhD or not. The second thing that I think people should do, and this is something that I picked up from an old professor at my second last job, is carry around a small notepad and pen. And it's very important that this is a physical notepad and pen. Put it in your bag, your daily carry. Buy a little one that you can put in your pocket, because when you're doing a part-time PhD, you are spending a lot of time away from your PhD. But here's the strange thing. I don't know if it's happened to you where you've been working on a problem and it isn't until you step away from the problem that your brain actually goes, maybe try this. I know I've done it loads of times. When I was teaching myself to code, that was one of the things that was almost guaranteed to work, is take a step away from the problem and your mind works on the problem in the background, maybe at night, maybe in the shower, maybe on your walk around the block. All of these things are super valuable because it enables you just to kind of relax, and the problem sometimes solves itself. And without a notepad and pen to write down what you've just discovered, what you've just thought about, you will forget. I promise you that much. You will forget exactly what your brainwave was, what exactly a magical idea was, or your solution to a problem. And having a notepad and pen there just means that you can jot it down really quickly. And the thing is that I tried using like Google Note and it just wasn't as effective. So having something physical with you to write it down is so important. And here's the thing about changing the way you perceive what your brain does. Your brain is awesome at being creative when it is free. Your brain is there for working on problems, not storing information. So as soon as you have an insight that you didn't have before and you've put two things together, or as soon as you've kind of thought about something that you can use in your research, write it down, because your brain is not very good at storing things. It is about allowing it to be creative, and carrying around a notepad and pen means that you can just jot that down, and when you get back to your desk, open it up and go, aha, that is either a good idea, and to be honest with you, a lot of the time, sometimes it's not a great idea, but that's also okay. It's about capturing that stream of knowledge as it pops out of your brain and then filtering it later. So carry around a notepad and pen, and this is particularly important if you're doing a part-time PhD, because you will be spending more time away from your, active research, sat at your desk in the lab, speaking to people, doing experiments, whatever it is. And you need to make sure that when those insights of inspiration, the flashes of inspiration come to you, you need to capture them. The third thing I would say about doing a part-time PhD, or if you are just taking some time off and you need to get back into it, is you need to develop some form of self-discipline. And this is the hardest and least kind of sexy part of getting stuff done. I've talked a lot on this channel about self-discipline, about setting up different kind of attitudes towards productivity. Go check out my other video where I say don't think about productivity as productivity, but rather as focusing your attention. That's a really important video. And we also have, the perfect PhD daily schedule. You can check out that video as well, because that combination, I think, is an absolute winner. But it really comes down to this, sort of breaking down your day into small bite-sized chunks, putting your attention on those problems, on those activities that you need to complete to get to your end goal, which is a PhD. You just need to get started a lot of the time. One thing I found with sort of maintaining that momentum is the moment that you stop, your brain goes, and it comes up with all these problems and all these issues about why you should stop, and like, comparisons and all that sort of stuff. Like, why? What is the, your brain's like, what is the best thing to start working on? And a lot of the time, the best thing is the thing in front of you. Just start it. Just, even if you don't think it's the best thing, it is the best thing because it's right in front of you. And if you can get that thing done, I talk about Eating the Frog by Brian Tracy. That's a good book. So getting that sort of like thing that's in front of you that's making you kind of a little bit anxious, that is normally the thing that you should just start working on. And I often say to myself that I'm going to work on something for 5 minutes, and that 5 minutes easily turns into 30 minutes, 40 minutes, because once I've started, that momentum is built up. So being self-disciplined often comes down to tricking yourself into only doing 2 minutes or 5 minutes, and that momentum builds and you find that you just kind of can't stop. So your brain will come up with loads of ideas of why you shouldn't do something. Just get started. And the fourth thing that I think is really important about a part-time PhD, or just any PhD in general, is don't compare yourself to others. And this is really tough, right? The world, the social media world, even just people in your lab, in your field, you are always comparing yourself. But if you are doing a part-time PhD, you are going to feel like they are rocketing ahead of you and that there's almost nothing you can do to catch them. But slow and steady wins the race. And you cannot kind of allow yourself to get demotivated by comparing yourself to someone, because that is their race. You have your own PhD race to run. Stay focused on what you can control. Stay focused on your timelines and not someone else's. Stay focused on what you should be doing right now to just move yourself 1% forward. And that is how you complete a PhD, not by comparing yourself to others. There's always going to be someone out there who's got more papers, who I guess you perceive as better in a load of ways. And a lot of time, they're not better. They have other opportunities. They've had opportunities that you haven't had, or they're privileged in some way. So stay focused on your mission. Don't let someone else's progress take away from what you're doing. And remember that your PhD is your PhD only, and it is your journey. And just keep on weaving, keep on trudging through the mud, one step, one foot in front of the other. And that's how you get there. So stop stop comparing yourself to others. So there we are. There are the 4 top things that I think you should consider if you are doing a part-time PhD, or if you want to stay super laser focused on that outcome and making sure that you can get to the end, even if you take a break for whatever reason, whether you're taking a break because you're doing part-time, whether or not you're going on holiday, whether or not you're just, taking some time off, and that is also perfectly okay. You just have to negotiate that with your supervisor and university. So there we have it. Let me know in the comments what you would add to that list, and I shall see you in the next video.